If you didn't see this, KPMG was all over the place because, and I mean, the headline sells it right there. They're giant 100-page AI prompt type of a thing. It's a 25-page document. And at first, some of the things I was seeing, I'm like, really? You're making fun of this? People were making fun of the fact they're like, oh, ha, ha, they're getting rid of all their consultants and then they're stuffing people in a room to write a 100-page document that's going to replace their jobs. And I'm like, that is not what is happening here. KPMG, kudos to you for what you're doing, because I actually think what you're doing right here is an example of what good looks like. I actually think this is a really good example of what good looks like. So for those of you who may be laughing at 100-page prompt, as people create their job replacement and, waste their time writing AI prompts, I'm like, this is where things are going. This is actually a smart move. And no, this doesn't mean everybody's job is going to be writing 100-page AI prompts. But to give some context to this, essentially what happened was they said, look, we have this really bulky tax thing that we do with all of our clients. Takes us forever. And a lot of it is just literally going through, pulling together data, pulling through all this other stuff, trying to sort through all the noise, which, as you can imagine, I don't know about anybody else, but tax time is not exactly, I'm not somebody who has everything neatly sitting in one spot with little pull tabs along things. You start scaling that to the size of an organization, it's messy. And so KPMG said, look, we have people spending lots and lots and lots of time doing the same thing to try and get this stuff together. Let's pull together some of the brightest people who know this stuff inside and out. And let's actually lay this out. Like, people were laughing at a 100-page prompt. This is process mapping. This is what they're doing. They're just process mapping it in a way that AI understands. They're just writing it in a new language. We've done this before. Hey, we need to know what our process is. Oh, okay. Well, let's get in a room and let's pull this all together. Now they just said, let's do that through the lens of how would we explain this to AI so that AI can do some of this work for us? Because for us in the workflow, we know we need to do this. Then we spend countless weeks, months running around, gathering all this stuff, figuring out what we have, what we don't have. A lot of it, just like the drive-through, is wasted time. We're sitting here waiting on Johnny to figure out what kind of sauce he wants on his chicken nuggets. And we're like, oh my gosh, same thing with this. We know we need to do this. So we send the stuff out and we get back 300 reports and only 80 of them are actually relevant. And so we need to figure out which ones are and which ones aren't. And so we just literally sort pages. Well, okay, figure out how to map that. Describe it to AI, tell it what it is you are trying to accomplish, what you're doing, how to analyze that stuff. And then let's let AI do that initial work with the oversight of something. So the fact KPMG took the time to say, let's pull everybody together and map this out, that's really smart. That's why I'm looking at the articles and the comments that are like, this is stupid. Like, what a waste of everybody's time. What a waste of everybody's time. This is the very thing you should be doing. They're doing this right. They are process mapping with AI in mind. Now, you may say, well, yeah, but then they're just going to have a 100-page prompt that they just run, and then AI is going to do all the work for them. No, they're not. And if you actually look into it, they even know that. Because as much as you might say, and KPMG, the folks who are building this know this, and you can see it when you actually dig into stuff, they know that just because they follow the same process doesn't mean it goes the same at every organization. They just know we go through this process. There are things we uncover along the way that then tell us this and that. And at each of those steps, based on what we discover, we might make the same moves, but we need to know when that happens so we can discern and decide which moves are the right moves. And so what they're doing is they're actually laying this out, going, here's what we do. Here are the key points. Here is, where we have stop gaps. That's why it's 100 pages. And that's the thing that I think is a little misleading, is that it almost seems to indicate they're doing like a one-shot prompt. They're saying, okay, here, let's just dump a bunch of information. Let's feed this one prompt in. And maybe I couldn't quite get a sense of it. It might be the initial prompt is 100 pages. It might be. If that's the case, I would be interested to see the results they get. My personal experience with these big Gen AI models is when you try and ask it to do too much all at once, it doesn't do very well. If this is now 100 pages broken into steps where they have checkpoints along the way, I think they're going to get better results than if they just dump all the data in and then feed it a 100-page prompt and wait till it spits out the other end. Personal opinion, but I couldn't get detail on this. But what was clear from this is they literally talk about the fact that they now just still have people that they plan on working alongside this. Yes, they spent months on the front end, a big team of people. Again, kudos KPMG for recognizing we go slow to go fast. We took the time to map this thing out, optimize it for AI, think through every possibility and all this stuff. Most people go, we don't got time for that. Like, well, let's just get to it. Let's throw Gen AI on our next project and move forward. No, they said, let's do it right on the first front so that we can make sure it's actually helping us, that we got the best people with the best minds, the best experience thinking about these things so that we can then move it forward. And if you look at some of the comments, their goal in this is not to eliminate people. Now, I would challenge that a little bit in that I do think big consulting, well, one, a lot of them are eliminating jobs. But two, if you've ever worked with a big consulting company, you've seen the waste. You've seen with like 10 people showing up to a meeting, you're like, why are you all here? Like, what's going on with all this? So there's some room for optimization, but you can see their goal is they want their people not doing the boring stuff. They want their people out there. Their exact quote is, we want them out there helping clients with chewy problems. You can like or dislike that comment, but that's what they're saying, which they get it. I actually, the second I saw they were writing a 100-page prompt and then saw how they were doing it, I'm like, this is somebody who actually understands how they're supposed to be working with AI. Doesn't surprise me. A big four, consulting firm would be one of the ones that's getting it, professional services figuring it out. But I think this really cuts against this whole grain of, just go fast and break things. Nope. KPMG knows there's too much risk associated with that. From what I can tell, it's not a run everything through a 100-page prompt and then call it good. No, it's do that to help get us through the core stuff so that we can move forward. And then, then we're going to focus our people's time on the things that matter most. And, and this is an example of doing AI right, in my opinion. And if you want to go check it out, I'd encourage you to do it. And once again, I know this one I'm plugging what I do more, but this is the kind of stuff I try and help people work through, is how do you actually work through this and make sure you're considering all these things, and what risks might you encounter? Where are the points in that 100-page checklist that you want to make sure somebody's signing off or checking or validating the conclusions it came to before you move forward with it? And that's why I say, if they really are throwing a 100-page prompt at something and hoping it comes out the other end, to me, that's dangerous, because you're going to get to the end and so much is going to have happened. It's going to be hard to actually spot check it along the way. And so one of the things, as a takeaway for anybody listening to this going, okay, so maybe we want to do something similar, is I don't know how their prompt works, but if you're doing this work and you're looking to create the one-shot prompt for your work, I would advise against that. That is not the best way to work with Gen AI. It might seem like it's producing a great result, but so much is happening, it'll be impossible for you to really know. That said, taking the time to actually generate, hey, what is this whole thing? And let's work through this. Let's figure this out so people can focus on this and they're not wasting their time on some of these mundane activities. Well done. Well done, KPMG. And I think this is the kind of stuff we should see from more folks, which it's not new. This is process optimization. I was talking with a CHRO friend this week who had reached out to ask me some questions about how to think about AI. And as I was describing something similar to this, They said, isn't this just kind of like what we did when Lean Six Sigma was kind of the big thing? Everybody's like, we're going to Lean Six Sigma our way out of everything. And then they realize, like, oh, this is actually a lot of work. And a lot of it has to do with just understanding what actually happens. I'm like, yep, pretty much. Do you have to think about it differently? Yeah. The way you think about AI, are the risks a lot higher? Yeah, absolutely they are. But there's a lot of familiarity. So if you look at some of this stuff and you freak out a bit, don't think this is totally new territory. But the part of it that is new, if you need help, let me know.